guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Jill and today I'm going to be doing the first date book tag. So let's get started. This tag was created by the wonderful Katie from Kate's Book Date and I was tagged by my really good friend Haley from Haley Reads. I will link both of their videos down below in the description. If you guys want to go check them out, I highly recommend it. Basically this tag is going to be combining first dates that you can have along with experiences that you've had from books, and it's so brilliant. I love the idea of this so much and I'm so excited to do it. So let's just get into it. The first question is the awkward first date, a book where something fell off. It wasn't a bad book but lacked that spark for you. For that I'm going to be throwing it back a little bit and I'm going to say Looking for Alaska by John Green. It's not bad. I can understand why people like it and I'm not hating on it or anything. I don't think I would ever say it's a bad book, but I just could not connect with it at all. I don't know what it was. I think it was just the characters. I just didn't connect with it really, so yeah, it's not a bad book, but it didn't really do anything for me, so. Number 2 is The Cheap First Date, a book that turned out less than you expected. For this, I'm going to go with Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. You guys have no idea how excited I was for this book. This book basically follows 3 different girls and they're all like fighting for this throne. Like there's an elementalist, there's a poisoner, and there's a naturalist, and it just sounded so good, but this book annoyed me to no end. I really strongly disliked this book. It was so confusing. I think that was the main thing that I didn't like about it. It literally took me like 75% of this book to recognize which queen was which. Even like the side characters, like I kept forgetting which ones they were, and I found everyone to be extremely dislikable. So yeah, this book definitely let me down in many different areas because it sounded so cool, but it was not what I wanted it to be at all. Number 3 is The Well-Prepared First Date, a book that is better than you expected. For that, I'm going to go with Heartless by Marissa Meyer. So when this book was first coming out, it was getting a ton of mixed reviews. Like lots of people that I followed on Goodreads were giving it like 3 stars, and so I stayed away from this book for so long because I didn't want to be disappointed. But then a ton of my personal friends here on BookTube started just raving about it, and so I was so cautious to pick it up because I didn't want to dislike it because I love the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, so I was so scared and I thought it was going to be terrible, but this is now one of my favorite books of all time. It's a Queen of Hearts retelling and it's so fantastic. This was not what I was expecting at all and it completely blew me away. Jess is one of my favorite male leads ever now, and I cannot get over this book. Number 4 is Hot But Dumb, a pretty book that's not so hot on the inside. For that, I'm going to go with Piper Perish by Kayla Kagan. This book, oh my god. So I think I mentioned this way back in like a TBR video, and I started it and then I ended up DNFing it and I never mentioned it again because on Goodreads when I DNF a book it doesn't go on my red shelf, and so when I'm doing like my wrap up and everything it doesn't show up, so I forgot to mention it again. But we're gonna talk about it right now because holy crap. This book is, first off, it's gorgeous. This is such a well-made book. Like the font, it has like a silver spine, like the inside, it's such a good looking book. Like kudos to whoever designed this book. It's beautiful. Now, okay, so when I decided to DNF this book, okay, I did like the short little rant review on Goodreads that was pretty brutal. And I normally don't do rant reviews or anything. I normally like, if I don't like a book, to give it a few days to let my thoughts settle and everything. But I was so worked up when I decided to DNF this book that I had to write a rant review. And as I was writing it, I was like, I'm going to regret this. I'm not taking time. I'm like doing this when I'm all worked up. I have not regretted it since. Like, this book has so many problems within it, I cannot even. I'll give you the short version so I don't rant for like 5 minutes. First off, there is an incredible amount of stereotypes in this book. Like, it was disgusting the amount of stereotypes that are in this book, basically. Second off, the main character, Piper, is annoying as hell, but she has a sister, and her sister is an extremely mean sister, and on top of that, her sister gets pregnant, which makes her extra mean. And when I say mean, like, this sister was so unrealistically, disturbingly abusive to Piper. It was unbelievable. I have no words. It was literally abuse, it was bullying, it was so nasty and brutal, and I know it probably sounds dramatic, but I could not read any more of this abuse, and no one cared that this sister was an absolute monster. Like, the parents didn't care. Piper just sort of like brushed it off, and I'm like, literally this is abuse. Like, it was so nasty. I couldn't read any more of it. And like, I skimmed ahead, like looked at the end, and she doesn't get better, so there's no like character arc. And the last thing that was that every single character in this book cries every few pages. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say every few pages someone is crying. And it would be one thing if the situation was extremely emotional, if it was like a really hard-hitting book. These people come up against minor inconveniences and they start crying. Every single character. And like every single character cries. I would say like at least 4 times, and I only got 42% of the way through this book. That's ridiculous, okay? So yeah, that's my little mini rant on this book. It's very, very pretty, but I hated it, basically. Number 5 is Blind Date, a book you picked up not knowing anything about it. For this, I'm going to go with one of my favorite books, and that is And I Darken by Kiersten White. I picked this up because I saw Kiersten White's name. I was like, oh, you know, that looks pretty interesting. The cover looked pretty. It had a knife on it. I had no idea what it was about. And I started it, and it follows an anti-hero named Lotta, and it's like a retelling of Vlad the Impaler, which is who Dracula is based on. This anti-hero Lotta is the most badass character I've ever read about. I love her so much. The sequel to this book is coming out on Tuesday, and I'm so pumped. Anyway, picked this up not knowing anything, and I was blown away. Number 6 is Speed Dating, a book that you read super fast. For this, I'm going to pick a book that I just read like 3 days ago in one sitting, and if you follow me on any social media, you'll probably recognize this book, and that is Confess by Colleen Hoover. I started this book at 11 o'clock at night, and I read until like 2:30 a.m. and I finished it in one sitting, and let me tell you, I was addicted to this book. This is my second Colleen Hoover book that I have read. I'll talk about it more in my wrap-up, but basically I could not stop. I physically could not stop reading this book. Colleen Hoover is literally my drug. Like, once I start one of her books, I cannot stop until I finish it. So this book, guys. Number 7 is The Rebound, a book you read too soon after a book hangover, and it kind of ruined the book for you. Now, I didn't have really a good answer for this, because normally when I read books like out of a reading slump, it like normally goes pretty well. I can normally gauge like what I'm in the mood for and kind of things like that. So I decided for this question to go with a classic that I actually just finished yesterday, because I just finished, like I said, Confess, which I read in like 5 hours, and this entire June month I've been reading such like fast-paced, amazing books, but this book was the complete polar opposite, and I just feel like after those books, I wasn't feeling it, and that was Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. But yeah, this book like bored me to actual tears. I ended up skimming the last like 50 pages because I couldn't take it anymore, and it's like, this book is very like stream of consciousness, like third-person omniscient, kind of like follows a woman through one day of her life trying to decide whether she should buy these flowers, and like it's very, very boring. I've been loving what I've been reading recently, and it's been really fast-paced, and so then to pick up this book just wasn't probably the best idea, but yeah. Number 9 is The Overly Enthusiastic Date, a book that felt like it was trying too hard. This, I'm going to bring up a book that I haven't mentioned in so long on my channel, and that is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. Let me tell you. For one, I really do not connect with magical realism books. Like, that is just historically the trend. This book is basically like follows these 4 generations of this family, and like this one girl has wings, and just, it was trying way too hard, let me just tell you. Like, when I read this question last night when I was preparing this video, I was like, This book, 100% trying way too hard. Number 9 is The Perfect First Date, a book that did everything right for you. I'm going to go with another book that I just finished a little bit ago, and that is A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. This was everything that I could have wanted in a conclusion to a trilogy. I loved it so much. This is my favorite book in the trilogy. It was fantastic. I loved everything that happened in this book. Like, there is not one bad thing that I could think of about this book. So this is definitely the perfect first date. And number 10 is The Humiliating First Date, a book you're embarrassed to admit you liked or embarrassed to see reading in public for whatever reason. The book I picked for this could actually technically answer both facets of this question, and that is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I personally really loved this book, and even that fact in and of itself is a little bit embarrassing, considering like my relatives come over and they're like, what have you been reading lately? And I'm like, this book, like this like really steamy book I loved. Like, it's a little bit embarrassing, and also like I feel like reading this out in public would have been a little like strange, like yeah. And that looks like it is about it for all of the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Haley for tagging me to do this. I don't think that I'm going to be tagging anyone today, just because I've been doing a bunch of tags lately, and like I feel like I've been tagging so many people so many times, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit annoying, so I'm not going to be tagging anyone today. But if you are watching this and you want to do it, then go right on ahead. It was lots of fun. I have my Goodreads, Twitter, Bookstagram, and personal Instagram all linked down below in the description if you want to follow me on those platforms. Give this video a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new here, and yeah, I will see you later in another video. Bye!